In this lesson, we will mostly be dealing with how various quantities change with time. Most of classical mechanics deals with things that change smoothly. Continuously is the mathematical term. As time changes continuously, dynamical law that update a state will have to involve such continuous change of time. Unlike the stroboscopic change of the first lecture. Thus, we will be interested in functions of the independent variable t. To cope mathematically with continuous change, we use the mathematics of calculus. Calculus is about limits, so let's get that idea in place. Suppose we have a sequence of numbers L1, L2, L3 that get closer and closer to some value L. Yeah, here is an example. 0.9, 0.99, 0. The limit of this sequence is 1. Yeah. None of the entries is equal to 1, but they get closer and closer to that value. To indicate this, we write limit I equal L. In words, L is the limit of Li as I goes to infinity. We can apply the same idea to function. Suppose we have a function ft and we want to describe how it varies as t gets closer and closer to some value, say a. If ft gets arbitrarily close to L as t tends to a, then we say the limit of ft as t approach a is the number L, or we can write it like this. Limit t approaching a for ft equal to capital L. Let ft be a function of the variable t. As t varies, so will ft. Differential calculus deals with the rate of change of such function. The idea is to start with ft at some instant and then to change the time by a little bit and see how much ft change. The rate of change is defined as the ratio of the change in f to the change in t. We denote the change in a quantity with the uppercase Greek letter delta. So for change, the symbol is delta. Let the change in t be called delta t. This is not delta times t. This is a change in t. Over the interval delta t, f change from ft to ft plus delta t. So, f change from ft to ft plus delta t. Yeah. The change in f, denoted by delta f, is then given by delta f equal ft plus delta t minus ft. To define the rate of change precisely at time t, we must let delta t shrink to 0. Of course, when we do that, delta f also shrinks to 0, but if we divide delta f by delta t, the ratio will tend to a limit. That limit is the derivative of ft with respect to t. We write it like this. T plus delta t minus ft A rigorous mathematician might frown on the idea that dft dt is the ratio of two differentials, but you will rarely make a mistake this way. Let's calculate a few derivatives. Begin with function defined by powers of t in particular. Let's illustrate the method by calculating the derivatives of ft equals t square. If we apply the last equation and begin by defining ft delta t equal to we can calculate this term t plus delta t square by direct multiplication, or we can use the binomial theorem. Either way, ft plus delta t equals t square to t delta t times delta t square. We now subtract ft t delta t plus delta t square minus t square, or equal to t delta t plus delta t square. The next step is to divide by delta t. T plus delta t minus ft equal to t delta t plus delta t square divided by delta t, or equal to t plus delta t. Now it's easy to take the limit delta t approaching 0. The first term does not depend on delta t and survive, but the second term tends to 0 and just disappears. This is something to keep in mind. Terms of higher order in delta t can be ignored when you calculate derivatives. Thus, as delta t approaching 0, this one will be 0. So, limit approaching 0 or ft plus delta t minus ft delta t will be 2t. So the derivative of t square is 2t, or just we can write like this, t square. Now let's consider a general power. Let's say ft equals t power of n. To calculate this derivative, we have to calculate ft plus delta t. Power of n. Here, high school algebra comes in handy. The result is given by the binomial theorem. Given two numbers a and b, we would like to calculate a plus b power n. Yeah. The binomial theorem gives a plus b or n equal with a n and a n minus 1 b plus n minus 1 by 2 a n minus 2 b square n times n minus 1 n minus 2 by 3 times so on to b power of n. How long does the expression go on? If n is an integer, it eventually terminates after n plus 1 terms. But the binomial theorem is more general than that. In fact, n can be any real or complex number. If n is not an integer, however, the expression never terminates. It is an infinite series. Happily, for our purpose, only the first two terms are important. To calculate t plus delta t power of n, all we have to do is plug in a equal t and b equal delta t. T and b equal delta t to get ft plus delta t equals t plus delta t power of n, t n plus n plus 1. All the terms represented by the dot shrink to 0 in the limit, so we ignore them. Now subtract ft or t, n power of n, we have delta f plus equal n t plus now divide by delta t, we have and if we let the delta t approaching 0, the derivative is then one important point is that this relation holds even if n is not an integer. N can be any real or complex number. Here are some special cases of derivatives. If n equals 0, then ft is just the number 1. Yeah. If n equals 0, the derivative is 0. This is the case for any function that doesn't change. If n equals 1, then ft equals t, and the derivative is 1. This is always true when you take the derivative of something with respect to itself. Here are some derivatives of power. Yeah. D square, derivatives of dt square equal to t power of 3 equal to 3 times t square of t power of 4 equals 4 times t power of 3. Or the general function, general formula will be like this. For future reference, here are some other derivatives. Derivative of sin t equal to cos t, derivative of t to minus sin t, derivative of exponential e power of t dt equals to e t, where e is Euler number, and derivatives of logarithm t equals to 1 divided by t. The third formula like this, dEt divided by dt equals et. The meaning of et is pretty clear if t is an integer. For example, e power of 3. Its meaning for non-integers is not obvious. Basically, e power of t is defined by the property that its derivative is equal to itself. So the third formula is really a definition. There are a few useful rules to remember about derivatives. You can prove them all if you want a challenging exercise. The first is the fact that the derivative of a constant is always 0. This makes sense. The derivative is the rate of change and a constant never changes. So, derivative of constant equals 0. The derivative of a constant times a function is the constant times the derivative of the function. Suppose we have two functions, ft and gt. Their sum is also a function, and its derivative is given by g. This is called the sum rule. The product of two functions is another function, and its derivative is f times g Not surprisingly, this is called the product rule. Next, suppose that gt is a function of t and fg is a function of g. That makes f an implicit function of t. So, if gt is function of t and fg is a function of g, so f an implicit function of t. If you want to know what f is for some t, you first compute gt. Then knowing g, you compute fg. It's easy to calculate the t derivative of f. This is f df g, well, dg. This is called chain rule. This would obviously be true if the derivatives were really ratios. In that case, the dg's would cancel in the numerator and denominator. In fact, this is one of those cases where the naive answer is correct. The important thing to remember about using the chain rule is that you invent an intermediate function gt to simplify ft, making it fg. So, this is example. If you have ft equal logarithmic natural of t power of 3, and we need to find df dt, then the t power of 3 inside the logarithmic might be a problem. Therefore, we invent the intermediate function. We call this function g, which is equal to 3t power of 3. So we have f function of g equal to ln g. We can then apply the chain rule, df dt we can use our differentiation formulas to note that df dg equals 1 divided by g, and dg dt equals 3t square. So df dt will be equal to 3 per g. We can substitute g. Oh, sorry. I think I make a mistake here. Okay. Oh, no. It's fine. Wait. I think I make a mistake here, like wait a minute. Okay, this one here. This should be, yeah, this one is wrong. This should be like logarithmic natural. Yeah. So not all logarithmic. Yes, sorry. Yeah, so back to here. So we have here df dt equal to 3t squared divided by g, and if we substitute g equals to t power of 3, we have this is how to use the chain rule. Using this rule, you can calculate a lot of derivatives that basically all there is to differential calculus.